Welcome, everybody, to the Kingdom of Gamealot Roundtable Podcast. I am Damon. I'm joined today by...
Lucas.
Co-host Lucas and myself, Jacob.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. We are three little gaming buddies doing our thing around this round table. Hoping to give you a little bit of our mind on things. To start us off, I'll go around, introduce a little bit, give you an idea of our gaming backgrounds, what really gets us going, what really sharpens our blades, you know?
Sure. So, being Kingdom of Gamealot and all that, we're going to try to, for the most part, keep this gaming-centric, as that is what we tend to do for hobbies.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, like, I know, Lucas, on your channel, you just do...
I do everything.
Whatever
anything
you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know...
But, I mean...
If you want to talk about lacrosse or, like, macher-macheing, like, I mean, go for it.
Two things that I explicitly haven't ever done.
Yeah.
Well, now's your chance.
Fair. So, Today's episode, you might have seen from the title, or maybe not. I don't know how I'm not going to name it yet. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite games.
Yep.
And, you know, that'll be fun. Maybe that'll let you know a little bit about us. What you laughing at, huh?
I don't know. Nothing.
Is it something about my weird-ass demeanor when I talk like a monkey man?
Yeah, it might be that Damon is actively moving his arms up and down like the hanging ladder monkeys, like that come in the little barrel.
Maybe.
In
the monkey in a barrel.
Monkey in a barrel, so that's the one.
Yeah, you know those ones.
Almost
simple enough.
Explicitly.
But yes, some of our favorite games. Well, who would like to begin? Why am I crossing my arms now?
By all means, lead the way.
Okay, sure. I'll be Mr. Leader Man. So gaming. That's a pretty broad term, huh? I'm going to start this like a 1950s.
Oh, boy.
No, I'm not going to do that. Anyway.
Like, so you plugged in your first console, huh?
You may be wondering where to go next after you've plugged in your first console.
Let's go back in time. I don't have very many early gaming memories, I'm not gonna lie. Like, some of my earliest gaming memories start in the PlayStation 2. Like, I used to have a PlayStation 1, but I honestly couldn't for the life of me tell you what games I had for it. Like,
I think
I had Tomb Raider?
Explicitly remembering, just for background knowledge of anything, Damon and I have known each other for a very, very long time. I have
3 right there. Those are all yours, I think.
Yeah, those are all mine. And actually, the Crash Bandicoot 2
Fucking Crash Bandicoot.
Crash Bandicoot 2 is yours. That was a gift.
Uh-huh.
However, in general, you seem to do a lot of your PlayStation 1 gaming around that time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in all fairness, I guess this is a good segue for you. Most of my early memories of us hanging out was actually a lot of you playing computer games.
Yeah.
Explicitly Command and Conquer.
I was about to touch the table. I'm not going to touch the table. How about that? Huh? How about them apples? Anyway. Yes, Command and Conquer, let's say, is...
a big impact on you and your gaming life, actually.
Like, specifically, the first Command and Conquer game I ever saw was Red Alert 2. And that shit blew my mind when I was a kid. Because, like we've seen Crash Bandicoot and all that. Like, we played them. And at the time... that was, like, my console, because we never really kept up to date. Like, I had an old computer. I think I remember playing, like, way back in the day, there was some Sesame Street game that I played that I have zero memory of.
It's also a good possibility there was the shitty PlayStation 1.
Oh my god.
With the letters and the diving and everything like that, and the pogo stick.
I've never played this.
Which, actually, now that I do remember you guys having the PlayStation 1 back in Florida. Because you had the Star Wars fighting game that your dad and one of his friends were playing.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, because like I've randomly unlocked a memory. I'm trying to remember the name of the game here.
So,
like I'm unlocking memories as I talk here. You can take over.
I don't think Sesame Street is necessarily
it's definitely
prime
not Sesame
focus
Street.
to be like
right.
engaging upon. Though.
You two take over for a moment
so
while I try and think of
in the vein of those Command and Conquer games, I love RTS games like that.
Absolutely.
And early on, probably from the age of like 10 to 14, I played so many of those. Command and Conquer I played a little bit of, but I don't think my computer was good enough to run the one that I actually owned. But I really loved Age of Empires, and I really loved... probably my favorite one was Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2, specifically. And it is so amazing, and I am so upset that
didn't you recently tell me that you had to find like a special disc copy like on eBay?
No, so what it was is I...
It looked like you got a story for this. You got all the...
Oh, yeah.
For some reason, I decided to separate the manual which had all the codes for downloading it from the discs. So for years and years and years, I couldn't find those codes, and I really wanted to play the game again. So what ended up happening is I found a random key generator, and it worked, so I was fine with that. But then what I was talking to you about recently is I finally found the manual with all the codes,
okay,
but like after I had already solved my issue.
I mean, you're saving the realms of Middle-earth or destroying them, enslaving them. I don't really know.
So,
factions are your favorite personally.
So the base game was like, it had a good and an evil campaign, but it also had War of the Ring, which was like, you could pick where you start, you could pick how many factions you fought against, and you could pick what those factions were. Okay, so like
your Galactic Conquest sort of...
somewhat, yeah.
Game mode.
And you could also build your own characters, your own heroes with their own abilities, their own unlock tree, and you could like spend your XP on different...
Okay, that's a little bit more in depth than I was expecting.
Yeah, and then Rise of the Witch King was the expansion to that, and that was just a straight-up evil campaign, but it was amazing.
There you go.
I definitely would play it again.
And of course, like, I grew up with Damon, like, pretty much on the sidelines, watching him play through these RTSs or engaging a little bit myself. But ultimately, a lot of it boiled down to, oh boy, I'm really having a lot of fun building a bunch of things that gets me a lot of points so I can build a lot of troops, and then eventually drag and drop over all of them and just steamroll to the end of the level.
Oh, absolutely. So, best way to play those games, generally speaking, is...
probably flanking and
go fast.
Destroying specific supply lines and going fast, obviously.
Using strategy, but no. I play RTS games like I'm a hoarder. I'll sit in my base, let them come to me with like 10 troops at a time, be like, you're just wasting resources, dumbass.
I feel
I sit there, and then I'm slowly amassing an army of a couple hundred dudes when they have... This is like level 1 of the game.
Especially
like,
for...
and they've got like nothing there. So I just rush over with everything and...
That's absolutely what I would do for Battle for Middle-earth, because you could build walls in that. So I would just build walls out, and then I would build off of those walls and just have an increasingly large thing. I remember on the first or second level of... or I guess it was the second level of Rise of the Witch King, I ended up building my base across the entire map to where it was bordering the enemy bases, and then I just sent everybody out at once.
There you go.
It took so long. I wouldn't recommend doing that ever, but I was probably like 10 at the time, so...
There's something quite magical about overgrinding.
Yeah, fair.
And really, RTSs are one of the quicker ways to do it, and like the most immediately gratifying.
Yeah.
Particularly at lower difficulties, of course, where your enemies have the brain of a potato, give or take.
And I may or may not have played on easy for like my entire childhood.
I mean, of course,
a really bad idea of what the game is.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and that's always going to mess with like your memories and how you perceive like the entire genre, but nevertheless shaped you in some capacity.
I don't think there's any like objectively correct way to play those games so long as you're having fun.
Pretty much. Unless you're playing against other people, then there is an objectively
granted. I'm going to agree with you in every sense of the way. In general, when it comes to, there's really no like wrong way to play any game unless it's in a competitive atmosphere.
I feel like even cheats in single player games are great, but not multiplayer.
But I learned very quickly that RTS games and multiplayer are not my cup of tea anyway.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's like the same thing with like fighting games in general. Like fighting games have such a high ceiling that it's been difficult for like, say, people like you and me, where we'll occasionally dabble if we see like, hey, that's an Ezio, or like, hey, that's pretty cool. They got some Terminator in here.
Absolutely.
That'll be a little bit of fun. Like, why not? Let's dabble.
I can beat some medium AI pretty decently sometimes.
Yeah, don't you worry. I got through that Injustice 2 story mode on the normal difficulty mode, and boy, it
felt like a king.
It was a pretty G time. Like
the moment you
generally that same sort of there are just a lot of genres, particularly those that are competitive, that just have those high skill ceilings, and RTSs are like one of those ones that really keep a lot of people away. That's honestly why it's probably one of the least popular genres I can think of.
It is very dead these days, and it makes me absolutely sad to know that. Like,
what are you talking about? We got some excellent remasters recently, I heard. I didn't really look into it or anything, but Crusader Kings or something.
Oh yeah.
I
gotta check that out. Actually,
I could be completely wrong. Or Age of Empires 2, I think.
Age of Empires 2's community has never died.
It has never died, and it got a remaster.
It's consistently a pretty popular game. It's one that I actually played very little of because it wasn't as fun to me. Because after playing Red Alert 2 specifically, going to Age of Empires, I'm like, what is this sticks and stones bullshit? I don't want to do that. I want guns in my RTSs.
I think Age of Empires 1 was my first foray into the RTS genre. And the first time I tried to play it on a very old computer, I was upset because I was a child and I didn't want to kill the alligator in the Egypt learning campaign. And it made me sad, so I shut it off.
That's fair.
But years later, I beat the whole Greece campaign, and I loved it.
And it killed so many alligators.
Probably.
John Travolta was the best class.
John Travolta in
Greece.
Age of Empires.
The Greece campaign.
Okay.
Of course.
Are you talking? Is this his hair reference?
No, it's a joke.
Grease.
Oh, Grease the movie. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
To which he is the main character. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Disregard me.
No worries.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, and honestly, I mean, it's also a little bit harrowing getting a game where you're explicitly timed at all times. Personally, I'm a huge fan of strategy games that are turn-based.
Absolutely.
It gives more of a chess feeling rather than
do it now.
Yeah, RTSs are more hey, move my pawn, start moving the other one. Wait, what are you doing? Stop. It's my turn. War doesn't work like this, asshole. Die. And then they completely steamroll you before you're oh. But if we are talking about games that are shaping you and continuing on your thing and also have an explicit time limit that aren't necessarily well received, but at the same time absolutely beloved by fans, I believe we have the segue for your next foray.
I've got my next favorite, but first, before I forget,
Yeah.
I unlocked the childhood memory from one of the few PlayStation 1 games I had, and that was Twisted Metal.
Oh yeah, you played a lot of Twisted Metal.
I played a lot of Twisted Metal.
I was mostly thinking Black, but I remember you playing PS1 Twisted Metal more than anything.
I've got Black.
Because you used to have it at the shop. Mm-hmm. You had your Twisted Metal. You had your your Command and Conquer. Mm-hmm. You had The Sims, and we had Cats and Dogs on VHS.
And also,
that's your visceral memory nostalgia right there.
And the first Star Wars game I remember playing, aside from, I think it was Squadrons.
Pod Racers.
Pod Racers.
That's PlayStation 2. We're talking PlayStation 1.
No,
that was
PS1
N64.
had one. Yeah, PS1 and 64 had the first one.
I forgot.
I played
it for the PlayStation 2.
Actually, speaking of which, they remastered at least one of them.
It's on Steam. Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I think they did both of them then. If I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they have them on PS4 and Switch now too.
Okay.
And
Pod
as you said,
I need to play that at some point then.
My cousin had an N64 and I would go to his house and play it, and then one day he let me borrow it and bring it home for a while. And so I played Pod Racer, I played Diddy Kong Racing. I freaking love that one.
We're going to one of his favorites. There you go.
Yeah, and then also the very terrible Superman game for N64.
Oh, no. Delight.
You got to play that?
Yeah, I
did.
It was so frustrating.
Oh, no. So mine was obviously my mom didn't really have a N64. However, the person she was dating at the time did.
Okay.
Because we had our PlayStation, because my mom her Spyros and her Crashes and her FF7, your classics. But I just got a little taste from what he had, and he did have Superman 64, which that was what I gravitated toward. That and Diddy Kong Racing were the two I gravitated towards. Yeah. Diddy Kong Racing felt really good, and Superman had the fun little blue and red guy on the box that I had my pajamas for.
It was so gray, though. And you just flew through these rings, and it controlled so poorly.
Yeah, but isn't that really a metaphor for life?
Let's
day by day, driving through hard to control
Superman teaching children.
I'll go with yes.
A never-ending nightmare that just crashes and burns, full of bugs and...
Yep. Welcome to the podcast of existential dread.
Don't worry about it. We'll forget. It's okay. So we accidentally moved on to Pod Racer, but regardless, one of the only racing games that I've ever truly enjoyed. Like, it's one of the few Star Wars games that I've ever truly loved, because I played that for the PS2. Back on the PS1, however, I had Phantom Menace. And that game was not that great. I have very few actual memories of that game. I remember it being one of those, like, in the very first room in the game, you're playing as... I think you're playing as Obi-Wan.
I'm going to assume Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Since it starts out with the...
Yeah, you're
the gas trap.
The trade ship. Yeah, you're the gas trap, and like as a kid, I'm itty bitty stupid kid brain. I have no idea what's going on in the room. All I know is the first droid in that room is the first like non-aggressive enemy I'd ever seen in a game, or like non-aggressive NPC type that you could just straight up kill. Like you could just cut it in half with a lightsaber, and then you have to escape the room. And all I remember after that is randomly the two of you get separated, and you're in vents. And you can just walk over to like a fan, fall in, and then you might as well be a Roblox character because you just crack into 10 pieces and fucking spin around, and it looks super dumb. And even as a kid, I was like, "That's weird."
I'm looking at screenshots of it right now.
And also, if you
It
kill...
looks like a PS1 game, spoiler alert.
Yeah, you'd be surprised to know. And also, if you kill Jar Jar, you have to restart, because even as a kid, I was like, Jar Jar's not that great.
I loved Jar Jar. I had a Jar Jar inflatable chair thing, and I also... and I've
know what? He's not as bad as, like, he was, like, at the time. Like,
yeah.
I think...
I'm sure I've grown to, like, indifference towards him, but, like, even as a kid, I was just like, like, I didn't have context for actual Star Wars. Like, I didn't know what the actual movies were. I just knew Phantom Menace, and I was like, that Jar Jar guy's kind of annoying. But, like, my voice was always like, he's annoying, I don't like him that much. I like this... whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
I saw the first 3 movies, and then I remember seeing the trailer, I think, for... I was still, like, a child, obviously, but I remember seeing the trailer for episode 1, and I was like, oh, Mom, we've got to go see this right now. And she's like, it's not out yet, honey. And I'm like, oh... why? And like I remember that was like my introduction to like movies come out and they're not already all out. Anyway, I was so small.
See, in my experience with it, the biggest takeaway I really got from Phantom Menace was my grandparents' realtor place that they like worked at the time had a little Pizza Hut right beside it. And they would, anytime I went, they gave me like, they would go ahead and buy me like the little personal.
Oh, the personal pan pizzas?
Yeah, the little tiny, like, baby pizzas.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
it was great. I would, like, maybe have, like, a Lego set or something I'd just build and eat at the same time, or, like, not eat the Legos, but build and then, like, eat my pizza at the same time or whatever. However, at the time, they had little kids' meal Phantom Menace toys.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd get, like, a little tradesman bust. Yeah, Trade Federation bust man.
Oh, yeah.
I'll see if I can pull them up for you real quick.
Yeah, did you... Okay, speaking of Pizza Hut as a kid, did you do the, like, reading program they had? Like, they would give you medals if you read, like, 10 books or something?
That sounds cool. My school did something like that.
I think they still do it. I think I asked, like, a while back when I went to Pizza Hut.
I'm unlocking random memories as we talk.
They used to have, like little... There were pizza boxes
those are
look like
so
that.
Cool.
That looks cool.
Yeah, they were really cool. They had little graphics, and I like that they got put together.
Oh my gosh.
See if I can actually like...
I will throw a graphic on the screen for you YouTube folks.
You're gonna have to
I remember this. So they had
Sorry,
had these
audio
little
listeners.
things.
Just imagine
they had the walking.
90s
They had the walking
Oh
Trade
my
Federation through like chair droid.
Yeah,
thing
audio
on.
listeners, just Google.
And it would walk around.
Google.
It was terrible.
The toys for what is it, Jacob?
It's Pizza Hut's kids meal. Phantom Menace toys.
Yeah.
So, your reading program thing unlocked a random memory in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Of, like, third grade. I want to say third grade, whenever I moved up here to North Carolina.
I forgot.
And I remember in English class, even though I guess all the classes were technically the same class, I remember they had this thing where if you read a book, it would be worth a certain amount of points, and they would have, like, a quiz that you could do to, like, trade it in for, like, depending on how well you do on this quiz, you get this many points, and then if you can tell your teacher you got these points, and that would be like tickets for a chance to guess and how many jelly beans were in a jar.
Oh,
for
yeah.
a chance to guess it.
It was something weird. I might be remembering it wrong, but it was something weird like that.
No,
and
that
then
sounds like actually kind of believable, but
And it was like, all right, you get this many guesses, and then like the bigger the book, the more points it was. Like I pretended to read Harry Potter because it was worth like 30 points,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I got like 5 because I hadn't read the book. I read like Goosebumps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Are you talking about like the thing where you took the little quiz online in like 3rd grade? Yeah, I remember that.
I never
I
had
also
this,
did that
but-
because I was impatient. I wanted points. I was reading Harry Potter at the time, but I was impatient, so I just was guessing at that point for Goblet of Fire because I hadn't read that one yet.
Yeah.
Or actually, I don't think I'd read even Prisoner at the time, but I had still tried clicking all the way through.
Oh my gosh.
And I wasn't getting my points, and you couldn't retake it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You're
no.
not allowed to retake them.
So, a little screwed on that one, and then that's where I actually started, like, properly, like, reading some
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Like I would just be like telling the teacher like, "Oh, I'm picking up Harry Potter," and then like 2 days later, I would take the test and put the book back because I had never actually.
Yeah.
Like I looked
Oh
at the
my
back
gosh.
cover and hoped, and I got maybe 1 point off of the back cover, and that was that.
That's hilarious.
So, how about them RTSs, am I right?
RTS. Yeah, and
RTSs are
yes.
good.
Welcome to our
I
gaming
realized
podcast.
how far we'd, like, segued a
Look,
little bit, but...
It's all
Surprise, we're
good.
still in introductions. You've been duped.
Hi, my name is Lucas. Anyway,
Hi,
I
Lucas.
think it's good. I think it's fun to just move the conversation along any way it goes. I think that'll
No.
be probably the most fun. So bear with us, episode 1 listeners.
We're getting the hang of it.
Yeah, just be along for the ride and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anyway,
Yeah,
Hopefully this will
if you
bring
want to
up-
be really angry or something, like...
if you want to be angry,
I mean, that's
Then who
that's
are
your
we to stop
problem,
you?
but I
why
mean,
would these
you know,
fucking morons
just-
get a podcast and I don't get one? I can make one.
As long
Surprise,
as you're
that's
enjoying,
us.
as long as you're enjoying not enjoying yourself, then I mean,
Hey,
we're here
guess
for
what,
you.
guy? You can get a microphone, and if you have a computer, you can make your own podcast.
yeah. But if you
you
don't have a
too.
computer, then fuck you.
Yeah.
Also,
Actually, probably any major device could probably at least serve for the
you
vague
could probably
basis.
even do it on your phone.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like any
you
sort
can
of
just
like
go for it if you have
any
passion.
recording device, you could honestly probably just post it, and then Spotify will be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, whatever.
Sure, whatever. If people want to pay for this, go for it. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Red Alert 2 was, like I said, way back when, a couple minutes ago. That was my first experience with RTSs, and I played it at a friend's house, and I basically ignored him to play his RTS games while he went to go play with our other friends.
Oh, you're that kind of person. Okay.
my God.
I would shut myself up in his room and just play through Red Alert 2 for hours on end.
It's hilarious.
Anyway, I wanted that game super bad. I was like, hey, can we get that? And I was probably very non-specific about it because I was a stupid little kid. And so, I remember, like, maybe a week later, I think my mom shows up with Red Alert, but it was the first one. And that was the point
The
where
true betrayal
that was the point where I had realized that, like, one, that it was
comes
a sequel.
before two.
Yeah, I didn't
Oh
even
my
know.
God.
I guess I had forgotten it was a sequel in the first place. And 2, there's a major discrepancy sometimes between sequels and games.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Red Alert 1 came out. I don't have the specifics right now. I'm not going to look it up. I'm not worrying about it. But it
Right.
looks like it came out at least 10 years prior.
Oh my gosh.
So as a kid, I was just like, this is... I was super upset, but like now looking back, I'm like,
Yeah.
I got a game. What am I fucking
I have
bitching for?
a somewhat similar story. So I had gotten a original Xbox. It wasn't actually mine. It was my uncle's. I got mine a few years later, but I had rented Halo 2 and I was playing that, and it was so much fun. I asked my mom for it for Christmas, and she got me Halo 1, at which point I was a little bit like, oh man, I wanted Halo 2. And then I got Halo 1, and it was amazing. And then I'm like, later on, I don't know why in my dumb kid brain, I didn't want to play the first one first.
You wanted the new shiny thing.
Yeah, and then looking back, I actually thanked my mom like 3 days ago. I'm like, hey mom, do you remember this? And then she's like, no, but I'm glad that you're happy now, because I was like, thank you so much for getting me the first one first. And
It's just
yeah.
4 years apparently for Red Alert.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
okay.
made a little
It's
bit more
only
sense
4
with
years, but it
like
makes so much fucking difference.
timeline.
especially at that point in gaming history, because graphics were moving along,
Particularly
at a very
with
rapid pace.
PC stuff, because the consoles were chugging a little bit, but
Yeah.
that was generally to be expected.
But that was also the time when, like, if a game came out on multiple platforms, it would be kind of terrible.
Or
on
they'd
the
be
PC.
very different.
Yeah, completely different games.
Either like it would be only for PC, or the port would be
Like,
a little iffy. I mean, look, like we're getting close to that. Like even Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 is what I was about to bring up.
Which actually is what I played it on. Was on the PC.
Really?
And it was fine. However,
oh man,
I was also a little kid. Like, how the fuck am I gonna like be like, oh, you're terrible. I have nitpicks about this and that. Like, all I remember is the web swing was fun, and maybe I clipped into walls at the end of that, like, final Doc Ock fight, where he has, like, the sun.
Oh, yeah.
But, in general...
I played it on the PS2, and it is still... I like it better than Spider-Man PS4. I just...
Can't even imagine how that feels.
It might be part nostalgia.
I mean, I'm sure, but like...
And I know you've gotten spoiled with the frame rate.
60 FPS?
Yeah.
It looks nice, man. I mean, I could go back to that.
Probably go back to Spider-Man 2 at 20 FPS.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
Probably be fun.
I mean,
I'm sure it's... I think I never actually played that game, surprisingly.
Like,
really?
It is really good. It is pretty much a big paragon of the time. Like,
absolutely.
Like, it pretty much was one of the only successful games to actually make you feel like Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. And then good old PS4 Spider-Man came along and for most people perfected it.
Yeah.
I will say it's still a great game, the
yeah.
PS4 version, but yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
It's a different thing.
Yeah.
The guy who played Ash.
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, yes.
Yeah, he narrates all those games.
Exactly. So, knowing that he wasn't in the new one kind of bummed me out a little bit, but like...
I mean, he didn't really have Sam Raimi doing anything.
Exactly.
So.
It's a completely different thing altogether, but it was just like knowing that he was in Spider-Man 2, because I remember watching a playthrough.
Actually, 1, 2, and 3.
I really loved the narrator guy. I didn't know his name until now. But, yeah, I really loved hearing his voice whenever he would just say some sarcastic shit.
Yeah. Like, if you fucked up a combo, he would shit-talk you. Like, come on, that wasn't that hard.
He'd be like, hey, player. I forget what he'd say after that, but it was like, you know you're supposed to do the thing, right? Go do the thing.
Yeah, like, you're not supposed to get kicked in the face, and like,
Yeah.
Yes, I love stuff like that, but I guess if they're going for slightly more realistic, less narrator, all that...
Less gamey,
yeah,
I guess.
Pretty much. Anyways, we've strayed very far from the...
Yeah, please, I mean, we're still about a third of the way through your intro, so...
But hey, on the bright side, we made it 30 minutes in. Surprised we haven't collapsed in on ourselves yet.
Wow.
Woo! Anyway, still got time to fuck it up. So, you were talking about timing and how people, generally speaking, don't like it that much. I will absolutely agree.
Yeah, who likes being constrained?
Oh, yeah.
Unless you really, really, really go hard into it.
That's why I never like the time trials in any racing game.
That's very fair. And Crash Bandicoot, the time ones with the
time
boxes.
anything.
Time trials drive me crazy.
However, have we got the game for you?
Well, even still, most people are like, ugh, that book sucks. Anyway, I'm talking about Dead Rising. Dead Rising is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. Specifically the second one for gameplay reasons. The first one's my favorite for like character reasons because I like Frank more than I like
the first one has
Chuck.
Frank. It has the set. I think the general design of the mall is just a little bit better.
I think that
even if 2 is absolutely more varied, it's more
much bigger.
Yeah,
space.
It's dynamic. It's way more dynamic. It's a bigger space to like fuck around with, but that matches like the scope of how they change everything.
Exactly.
And of course, when they remade it with Frank again, also even better.
Yeah.
I think that the difference with the time constraint in that game is it has like a reason in game, right? Whereas,
time
like,
is moving forward.
I don't know. I still feel like war is pretty good reason because like enemies could just walk up to you and shoot you. It still feels a little bit thematically appropriate.
Mm-hmm. But like as opposed to an arbitrary time constraint, I think that makes it a lot.
Unless
better.
we're talking about the Revolutionary War, where you're like, you take a turn, I take a turn.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know, or like,
Muskets?
prior to Revolutionary War, I should say.
I was about to say, and then the Americans fucked it all up.
Yeah.
But we'll get into the Revolutionary War later. No, anyway.
Tune into episode 17, the Revolutionary War.
Surprise.
Episode 1776.
We're playing the long con. This is actually a war podcast. Anyway, Dead Rising 1 versus Dead Rising 2. I suppose it's weird to compare the two, but like you said, 2, they're both good for their own reason.
I mean, they add the combo weapons. They add, well, generally they refine the controls a lot more.
They turned Dead Rising into, like, it gave it its identity, basically. Like, the combo weapons going forward is just, like, the thing.
And then they took those combos and then buried it alive and smothered it in
and then Dead Rising 4 came up from the ashes and was like, hey, I'm Dead Rising. And it's like, you're not. You're not really.
But man,
unfortunately,
Frank's Big Package. What do you got wrong with that?
The name Frank's Big Package is like, that's a Dead Rising joke. Sure, I can get behind that. Except it's not Frank because it's not his fucking voice actor and it doesn't look like him. And they were like, oh, well, because we want to identify with the kids and don't want to make Frank 70 or whatever.
Well, I mean, also this came out in a post The Last of Us era of zombie media. Mm-hmm. Which in general, like, that really shaped some stuff, like, going forward. In fact, actually, the regional plans for Dead Rising 4 were to be a big old gritty reboot.
Yep.
Like, ultra gritty. Which, to be fair, still probably would have been way better.
Yeah.
Than their finished product of, like
someone in the company was just like, hey, that's a shitty idea.
Going this way, that way or the other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then everyone eventually turned to his side, but, like, not enough to be like, it's not a gritty reboot. But it's not Frank still.
No, actually, a lot of it was, if I remember correctly, because I was watching.
Like, I still haven't played the game. I've seen so much of it that I just don't like.
Yeah, because a lot of it was just people, like, trying to do this, that, and the other, and then, like, the Japanese studio, like Capcom, being like, nah.
Capcom tends to do that a lot. I'm looking at my Onimushas over on the shelf. 3 of them are just pretty straightforward, and then we got a fighting game, and then we got Onimusha 4, whatever the fuck that is.
I mean, yeah.
And then we got a remaster a couple years ago.
Yeah, but that was pretty much just testing the waters to see if they could get the same sort of success that the Resident Evil remasters got.
But it's not good
remasters
enough.
And remakes.
It's not good.
Because actually, like, them re-releasing Resident Evil 1 remastered, the GameCube one. That's what launched them remaking 2 and 3, because that got ridiculous sales.
I think that it's not got the same name behind it, because I didn't really know about Onimusha until, like, you said, oh, that's a good game.
Probably because even Capcom's like, Onimusha, never heard of it. In most cases, it's just like, hey, we made Resident Evil, and...
What do you mean? They still had a lot of games at that point. They had, Street Fighter was their...
Oh yeah, I guess they did kind of...
Street Fighter's their big...
Yeah, okay.
I mean, technically now their big thing is Monster Hunter, but...
That's fair.
Like, that's their biggest selling.
Sometimes I forget what companies make what. It's just that Onimusha got shafted so hard, and I'm super sad about it, because it's...
I've still got to play it.
Like, we'll get to it eventually, once we're done with Onimusha, or once we're done with fucking Dead Rising here. Yeah, but it's just like, that's another of my favorite games.
Yeah.
I guess going back, I have vague points to make because I don't want to take up this whole fucking thing. I liked both of the games, but 2 improved the gameplay enough to where I like it more, but I love the setting of 1. The boss fights were slightly more fun and all of that, but it also had, Frank! Help me! Frank! Come on, follow me! Come on! Because they won't follow you, you see. They're too busy being grabbed by zombies.
The remaster for PS4 fixed a lot of those AI issues, and honestly, it makes me kind of like the game.
I need to play that game
more. A little bit more. Well, you just bought 2, didn't you?
Play that again.
And then I ironically bought 1 and off the record.
Yeah.
Instead. But yeah, and also, of course, 2 adds the co-op element, which... I mean, if you're just fucking around with your friends in the mall where you're putting on goofy costumes and kicking each other in a casino.
With 2 Chucks in the game's like, the game won't even question why there's 2 Chucks. One's in a dress, because he wants to be in a dress. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah,
as long as he's happy.
Exactly.
Like clothes like 8 sizes too small, you know?
Exactly.
You know, at least it's not like Frank. Well, actually, I guess we got there eventually.
We got Fat Frank, don't worry. But 2 improved so much shit, and like adding in combo weapons was such a big deal for the series. Like, the first game is silly as fuck, and it had a lot of fun elements to it. Like, the last thing you unlock in the game is the ability to walk super slow through a crowd of zombies, which is the dumbest power-up ever, because you're never gonna want to use it when you can just zombie ride. You can just hop on zombies' heads and go along, but it's fun.
And it's safe.
Exactly, it is very safe. Except unless you're escorting anyone, then they're fucked.
Yeah, they're not level 50.
They didn't unlock everything like I did. They didn't kill 53,594 zombies like I did.
That's hilarious.
They can go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
They didn't get the Mega Man Buster and the laser sword.
You can hand it to
the
them.
fucking laser sword. I love Dead Rising 1, but folks at home...
Dude, have you seen...
Speaking of timed events...
You know, that's the genuine, like...
7-day mode.
It's one of the worst things, because, like, what? It's like...
so bad.
I forgot how long it actually is. It's like 14 hours in actual real life.
In actual straight up real life. Okay, so for the folks
like the
at
7-day thing, because I don't know if you've seen number one, the completionist first video, let alone his second video he recently did remastering it, where he had to go through the 7-day challenge that you unlock after you beat the game. We just have to survive for 7 days. There's no save.
That's the worst part.
You can't turn it off. So you have to make sure you've dedicated a significant chunk of time. And if you die in the game, power outage, anything like that happens.
Yeah, power outage.
Significantly
like a random example that certainly didn't happen to me at least 6 hours into my first try.
Oh no.
Certainly not at all.
Yeah,
so we're coming to 7 days mode. Normally,
we got to day 3.
Yeah, normally when it comes to those kinds of games, I'm always like, I'll just do it myself. But when I looked up the logistics of it, and it being literally 14 hours of my life, I was just like, nah, I'm gonna look up a walkthrough though. Fuck that.
Yeah, just barricade yourself with your, like, 18 orange juices. You're
exactly.
Good.
So with that game mode, like Jacob said, you can't save, and your life will go down over time.
Oh no.
So, like, you can't literally just sit there for 14 hours in a safe room.
Yeah.
So you will have to scour them all for materials.
Not to even mention, almost all the NPCs have been turned into minor psychopaths.
And most of them are just dumbasses that you could just kill with a sword.
Particularly the fucking poodle lady on the roof.
She's the real final boss.
Yeah, she really is.
Fucking poodle lady. I hate her.
Well, then, do you have anything else that really influenced you? The big hitters.
I mean, I don't want to make this all about me. Like, I just want to...
No, of course. I mean, I'm just saying, like, 3 things that, like, really, like...
About, like, specifically Dead Rising, I would say?
No, I mean, not even Dead Rising, just, like, genres. Like, what defines you
as a gamer?
As a real gamer?
What makes you a real gamer?
Well, I would definitely say RTSs are one of my absolute favorites. Yep. In the grand scheme of things, I will say I'm garbage at the multiplayer because I have my own way of playing.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about me in a general sense. Fuck the meta.
I agree.
Like, for non-video games, I guess, except for Arena, I play Magic the Gathering.
Right.
Like all of us here do, and we have a huge friend group of all people that play it. And I'll say, when you look at the meta for tournaments and whoever wins...
It makes it not fun.
Yeah, like, you will look at the meta and find that, like, 7 out of the 10 ones are playing basically the same deck.
It's like, sure, it works, sure, it, like, gets you a win, but, like, it doesn't...
You're just following a formula. And then you'll play against people in unranked that are like, I'm just gonna copy what the guy in the tournament did. And then he wins, because it's not ranked. I'm here to play jank.
I don't know, man. I've seen some, like, ridiculously stupid jank where I'm like, why is that working?
So the name of my game is Jank. In Magic the Gathering, in RTSs, because I'll just build a big-ass army and just whomp over there.
I think just doing whatever's the most fun is, like, I mean, like...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you find your own fun in games like that. And I feel like open-endedness is, like, a big factor in games like that. I've seen plenty of video games that railroad you super hard and shit like that. And I get the point that... Anyway, I'm not here to talk about bad things. I'm here to talk about good things. I like, second genre I enjoy is shooters. I have a general just love of
gravitation.
Shooters.
Yeah.
I find that I'm pretty decent at them, so over time I'm just like, I'm just gonna collect more of them.
Yeah.
And you'll find that I have at least 6 Call of Duty games in my shelf, maybe more, especially counting ones online.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look over back at the 360 stuff, then yeah.
I was huge into it. I still kind of like it. I love, especially World War II stuff. In a way, I'm a World War I and II buff, just because I find that shit fascinating.
Me too.
I'm also not here to talk about that anymore.
I really hate to burst your bubble, buddy, but you only have 5 over there.
Oh, man.
I think I have Black Ops 3 in the pile over here.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'll do it.
Oh, okay.
But only 5...
You got me there,
It
bub.
holds up.
Got him. But yeah, by the way, I started Halo on Halo 3. Like, I love Halo 3.
Interesting.
And I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Third time's a charm,
That
especially
one-
when it's the first time.
Halo 3
That one
is
meme of the guy in the flak suit with the pistol, I don't know why I am here. All I know is I must kill.
I love that.
It's that kind of shit. Like,
Yeah.
I started Halo 3, like, I don't know what's going on, but this is cool. I started Mass Effect on Mass Effect 2, like a dumbass.
What do you mean like a dumbass? That's the best one in the trilogy.
It is the best one. And I just ignored Mass Effect 1.
However, I mean, the remaster coming out soon.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely.
so far, like, I'm a little iffy on how they've changed some, like, the lighting, and it makes it seem less, like, alien. Mm-hmm. Sort of like with the Halo Master Chief Collection type stuff. I've seen some stuff where it's like they're kind of doing some of the lighting stuff like that, but it looks way better than those at least.
When they remastered Halo 1, they went off of the PC port, which fucked some things up with the lighting and the textures. Mm-hmm. And so somebody I watched did a really good video on it, bringing light to the subject of the remaster of Halo 1 and how it's fucked up because they used the port as the base instead of the original Xbox.
Or if anything, we can always go over that like on a remaster podcast.
There's plenty of things to look forward to for us. And
so many things to talk about.
All right, well,
it's gonna be great.
Do you think that wraps up you, Damon, the gamer?
I suppose RTSs, shooters. And since we're talking about Mass Effect, I'd say RPGs are another pretty big one for me. And speaking of RPGs, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Jacob.
I'm typically your big RPG boy. Just the general things that shape me. It's RPGs, horror games, and like basically anything with story, some sort of like artistic appreciation to the game itself. You'll have your exceptions here and there, like I play a lot of like Monster Hunter and stuff like that, where it's just I'm there for that nice and deep, well-curated experience of action RPG boss battles.
Smack, smack, smack.
It's a really great time. However, like, if I'm boiling things down to, like, games that really, like, influence me as a human, I'm going to go with my personal favorite, which is Final Fantasy X. It's one of those first big games with almost complete voice acting.
Hell yeah.
Like 95% of that game, I think, is voice acted for being one of the first PlayStation 2 games.
Including
even the graphics, like beyond the remaster, held up pretty well, all things considered, for being a first-gen PS2 title.
Side note, also one of my favorites, but I feel like Jacob takes the cake when it comes to liking it.
I mean, yeah, but like
I haven't finished it, but I love it.
We were one of the fucking weird nerds where we'd sit at the fucking breakfast table in elementary school singing the hymn of the faith. Like, yeah, it was like that God. Sort of like bullshit.
I wish I was like a year or two older.
Yeah, no, that really would have been a great time. I mean, I was still like...
At least we had some classes together.
Yeah, weird shared recess shit because we were like 2 grades apart, but we could still hang out.
1 grade.
Was it only one? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were like within arm's breadth sort of thing. However, I mean, that game has a fantastic story, a well-crafted battle system.
Chair in the room.
Fantastic characters, like one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. Like, it was just something that really, really shook me to my core, like, as far as all that goes. And I mean, of course, I'd love to talk more in depth about it, but we're moving on. Also, like, during that era, like, we had Kingdom Hearts and Pokemon Emerald and stuff like that. You know, I mean, and Kingdom Hearts was one of those first, like, really great action. That was, like, one of the first, like, really, like, good feeling action RPGs.
It did. I appreciated
it. Like, it had so much charm.
You're wearing a Kingdom Hearts shirt right now.
Yeah, so much charm, so much mystery, intrigue, like.
And then we
have a weird thing.
I have to share with you one of my favorite quotes that I remember of. It was Goofy, who, by the way, was in the game.
Yeah.
Was going, Sephiroth, ain't he one of them darkness bears or something like that? He goes on for like a minute about...
Angel of Dark.
Exactly. It was Goofy going on for about a minute sort of about Sephiroth.
Was Sephiroth in 1 or 2?
He's in both.
He's in both. He's like a secret boss in the Colosseum. Spoilers.
Oh yeah, he was, and I forgot about the Colosseum.
But it's just... Right. Goofy going, ain't he one of them angels of darkness or whatever?
It's very...
And it's just so weird.
It takes you out of the moment.
Exactly. It's just, that's Goofy. You know, the one that goes, talking about Sephiroth.
Ain't Sephiroth the one who's supposed to be the dark part of Cloud's heart?
Huh. Well, anyway, I mean, yeah, and they kind of
sings that Evanescence song. Right?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you're getting a game here where, like, you're getting your big childhood mascot coming and be like, "Let's banish the darkness."
It's such a doofy game, but I feel like that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I absolutely adore it.
I mean, once again, it's taking the charm and glory that, like, a lot of that, like, Disney Renaissance captured and puts it into the shoes of a child where, like, we're children we're children at the time. You're playing as, like, a child who just wants to expand their entire world. And everything's, like, coming into you, like, just as a grand and true adventure.
And then Riku wants to name the ship the Valorant 2 or some bullshit.
No,
I forget what it was.
his was, wasn't his the Highwind?
No, the Highwind's what you end up...
The Highwind's the original
Highwind's
name.
the default name.
Yeah.
Is it not? Okay, so it's Excalibur. It's either...
He wants to name it Excalibur.
Yeah, and
then you accidentally lose the race to him because that race is actually kind of hard, and then you're stuck with the
so
Excalibur.
much time on that race, and I at one point I went through and I beat him and just kept beating him until like
99 to 0
times.
Fuck you, buddy.
Yeah, I did that.
Now it's like, or Sora saying, "Oh man, now it's 99 to 1."
Yeah.
That kind of shit. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's a glory.
just
I didn't
remember
even
dumb
mean to.
shit
I
like
didn't even
that.
mean to talk about Kingdom Hearts. To be
Kingdom
honest.
Hearts
But,
is so good, though.
But that really
and it's
is a
like-
good like spot. I mean, particularly the first one, in my opinion,
Yeah.
which is
I feel like
up there as probably my favorite, but if not close to it.
when I think of you, I do think of Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy X. Whenever I just think of games that apply to you,
That's completely
as a
understandable.
person.
And in general, like, I was shaped by a lot of that PS1 to PS2 transitionary period.
Yeah,
With, like, your Tomb Raiders and your Crash Bandicoots, and it's generally, like, Resident Evil, which is also one of my big ones. I'm a huge horror game fan. Survival horror, I should state. I'm not a huge fan of things where you just run away from the creature.
Yeah, that's
Because
fair.
I don't find it scary, I just find it aggravating. If it makes sense. There are certain games that have done it well, but it's not really my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, just those games where, like, generally great compact design, where everything has a purpose and a place, and just eventually get into a system where, like, you can speedrun those games, and it feels good, gets those serotonin really pumping.
Speed runs is wacky as shit.
Yeah, no, I love Resident Evil speedruns, man. That's my favorite shit.
Like, even the ones without
Some days, like,
glitches,
if I'm
that
just-
shit's weird.
Yeah, no, if I'm just having a bad day, I'll plug in, like, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I'll pump that out in, like, an hour or two.
Fair.
And,
Like,
like, just
I'm
have fun
surprised
with
even
it.
the remake can be done like that.
nice.
Yeah, no, I mean, the remake is about as long as the original.
Fair enough. Never really thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, hell, even I've done, like, quick playthroughs of RE4, and that's one of the longest ones. But that's, like, after you unlock, like, all the infinite ammo weapons, and you can just speed through and just spray.
You can just do whatever the
Or
hell
just
you want.
laser and just go on your way. I mean, or RE7 feels fantastic as a speed run. That game, like, really just captured Resident Evil 1, but in a shitty bayou.
Down
like-
in the bayou.
Down on the bayou.
That's funny.
But yeah, you'll get a lot of games like those that basically, like, either have a really good story or depth or characters, or just have a really nice, tight, curated experience. Another good way to exemplify how I feel about games, my favorite Rockstar game is probably Bully,
Very
which
good.
has a much tighter world. Like,
Very focused, so
like,
everything
very
matters.
focused. Like, almost everything in that place matters, except maybe, like, the left side of the map with, like, the prep neighborhood. Like, just because you can't, like, really, like, I mean, there are more missions in, like, Scholarship Edition or whatever, which is what I played.
You visit them
First-
like twice.
But, like, it's not, like, something where you can deep dive into, like, all the different places. Like, you can play all the different things in the carnival, and there's little secrets around every corner. You can go in all the little shops and everything. And it feels like I'm actually, like, in school. I'm finding all these little secrets. I'm helping out these people, like, getting a really good back and forth between the people.
Absolutely.
While in GTA, you're just all over the place. There's this person, this person dies. You're on this. It's not as much for me at all.
And you can't really get connected as much in a world where there's no permanence,
and like
I suppose.
and ultimately that's
need to
what makes
finish that one.
what makes Scholarship Edition one of my favorite games. Also has a fucking amazing bass soundtrack. In addition to that, like
I just remember running around on my bike all the time in that game,
But
just
yeah.
doing nothing.
I'd say besides stuff like that, a lot of my inspiration really. Not inspiration, but my like
It could be inspiration.
my yeah, I guess it could be. But a lot of my background comes really from like also point and click games.
Oh, yeah.
Love those. Love the Telltale games despite their flaws.
thing is, first
Your
time
Life
you're
is
playing
Strange is your Until Dawn. It's
Yeah.
like I played through Until Dawn like 8 times. Like it's
Yeah.
just a great experience. And then you'll throw in a couple like Zeldas in there and like
For sure.
surprised you're sneaking in Zelda at the end. I figured that'd be like top 3. Up
I
there.
really should have, because I mean, any game that really expands like the puzzle aspects, the exploration, generally also making a very tight experience with an expansive fantasy world. Like I just absolutely go bonkers for that kind of stuff.
I wish I was more into puzzles.
Yeah, just the experience. I mean, it all depends. You might just need to actually find like the right one for you.
I like.
I mean,
combat
fuck.
puzzles.
Look, I mean,
Yeah.
I know you were having your fucky shit with Catherine, but that game is a genuine delight. Like switching between like those cool puzzle elements and social elements at the bar in between all your days and nights, and creating those experiences like.
Like
the-
Persona per se.
The relation, yeah. I mean, of course,
Persona
it's
Persona.
the same
I love
director, of course. It's the same director, of
Yeah.
course. And
The thing is-
and
I could spend that entire video talking about Persona because, like,
course.
I love the dungeons, sure, but the school bits are my absolute favorite bits.
Yeah,
of that
no,
game.
I-
And the bar is my favorite part of Catherine.
I
That's what I
smack
like
through
about
things to
Persona
get.
2.
I smack through things so I can go like
I just
hang
want to
out
get done
with
shit.
yeah. So I can just go hang out with my buddy Kanji. You know,
Exactly.
Like, it was
Like,
just
I
like
heard he's having some troubles with his legs. I want to go help him.
that's
Yeah.
Ryuji, my
Oh shit,
my dude.
my
But
dude, my dad. I'm losing everything.
yeah, just games that really hit you
Yeah.
right in the heart. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I'd say like beyond that, that's like just my basic me. Lucas, by all means, take it away.
Okay, yeah. You just made me realize a bunch of games that are fantastic that
Yeah,
I haven't
absolutely.
finished.
Like,
We've opened your eyes.
There's so many that
Yeah.
I need to finish.
Oh, I believe.
I haven't finished Final Fantasy X, Persona 4 or 5.
Bless you.
Bless you. And yeah, something else. Bully. I haven't finished Bully either, but yeah, they're all great
Last
games.
of Us.
The Last of Us I haven't
Part
even
one.
started.
So part of me feels like okay. So I'll get right back to you. Don't worry.
Yeah, so
So I have a small group of games on my desk called the unfinished game pile slash multiplayer. So I'd say about 3 of them are multiplayer. The rest is the unfinished pile.
right.
Meanwhile, the rest is like games I've done or I'm just not doing anymore. And I feel like your games I'm doing pile would probably be maybe 3 times as long as mine.
I think my games
If I had to guess.
that I'm in the middle of or haven't started, but I plan to, my games to play soon list would stack from the floor to your ceiling a
Yikes.
couple
I
of times.
think I would also like say that applies to me, except I play a little bit more of like the mainstream. I at least get those big like, yeah, this is the game of the year experience.
Yeah.
In there while you're missing a few. That I would
get-
equate it to your stack of borrowed books that you used to keep beside
Oh
your
yeah,
bed.
the ones they're all here now.
That were
so
like-
that's-
Yeah, I'm proud. You
I
brought back my
returned
stuff
them.
and everything.
I still haven't brought you back me,
oh yeah, yeah.
but it's
Yikes.
next to my
It's
PS5.
fine.
So at any rate, yeah, I love all sorts of games. I'm currently in the middle of making a video for my channel of my game of the year
Holotape.
for
Plug yourself. please,
Holotape
of course.
Creations. Go subscribe, please subscribe. That's fun. You should do it.
Also,
I hear people also like those like and
like and subscribe.
button.
Oh yeah, the
bells
like
ding
and
dong.
subscribe. Yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
Anyway, do that if you want to see content from here, there, and yonder. Whatever I feel like making, go do that. But yeah, right now I'm working on my game of the year for every year since I was born, because I say at the beginning of that video, I can't just pick one favorite game or one favorite type of game. Really, there's so many good games that have come out.
Yeah, what happens when it really hits you and like, oh, how do I choose between these?
Right. So that's why in that video I'm talking to myself, and at certain points I'm going to disagree with myself and just be like, that's my game of the year.
I hope Left Lucas gets very violent.
I mean,
Like,
in all honesty, like there comes certain points where like I don't know what to do. Like,
Right.
for instance, I was like watching when Normal Boots was doing their Madness stuff,
good shit.
and yeah, like you had Symphony of the Night, Metal Gear Solid, and Resident Evil 2 all in like the same bracket, and I'd consider those all perfect games.
Yeah, it's super hard to compare
Or
games
as
of, like,
close
such
to
different
perfection,
genres.
like
Right.
like I don't really know what to choose. Like even
That
if
would
like
be fun to do at some
that
point.
one while we were watching the snippet of your video, like
Yeah.
when Metal Gear Solid popped up, I was just like, honestly, I think that's a better game than Ocarina of Time.
Well, the thing is, I don't have the same connection
don't have
to
the
Metal
same-
Gear Solid
yeah,
as you
that's
do.
fair.
I didn't play it until much later, and I didn't.
Me neither.
I also didn't finish that one. fun.
There we go. I was gonna say, I didn't finish it till I got my PS3, which was like midway through the PS3's life.
I have so much more nostalgia for Ocarina of Time and the other games I listed for that year. Mm-hmm. But spoiler alert for my video, I picked Ocarina of Time for whatever year that was.
For whenever it came out.
97, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Also, it was the first 3D Zelda game. Okay, so I love Zelda games. Just to answer the question or whatever, I'll just name some games that I absolutely love. The Jak and Daxter series is freaking amazing.
Yeah, how many times you've platinumed those? I'm like just
the original Jak and Daxter, I've platinumed on both PS3 and PS4, and I've done the equivalent that would get me that on the PS2.
That's very cool.
Jak 2, I absolutely love. Jak 3, also amazing. Jak X Combat Racing is that and Diddy Kong Racing are probably my two favorite racing.
The Jak games have such a different feel from each other. That shit's wacky.
God. It's like Jak and Daxter was like, okay, we're an adventure game.
It's really just an expansion on what if I took Crash Bandicoot out from like a level type setting to
it's
like
open world collectathon.
And it's so good, and I love the weird future past aesthetic sort of thing. And then Jak 2's like, fuck it, we're going into the future.
You can shoot a fucking car. The police are gonna come after you.
Jak's been tortured for years, apparently.
Guess what? We're GTA, and we're GTA as well as Tony Hawk's Underground, but with a hoverboard and like a cooler aesthetic than GTA.
Also, we're Ratchet and Clank now with 15 different guns.
Yeah, they came out around that same time too. Right?
Yeah, the same year.
Get your like Walmart, Toys R Us kiosk demo time in.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh my God. So demo games. We should do a whole segment on like old demos and like the shit that used to be in Walmart. And so the first time I played Luigi's Mansion was on Kmart at a Kmart kiosk. Jak 2 was absolutely amazing, and then Jak 3 took it, and it was like, okay, we're in the desert now, and you've got all this other cool. Oh, it's so good. You should. You still should.
But it has a desert setting. I don't like desert settings.
Well, no, but then you go from the desert back into the city, and it's so cool.
I'm already
and then you go into the center of the planet, and then it's oh my God, so fucking cool.
Sounds a little hot for me, but
you'd be surprised. Anyway, it might not be the exact center, probably not. But anyway, really, I love the Jak and Daxter games.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff, absolutely.
Yeah, that whole era of like Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. All of those that are kind of in that same vein.
Tak and the Power of Juju.
Tak and the Power of Juju.
Oh, yes. That game was wacky.
Yeah, those games, all in that same vein. So good. I love Super Mario Sunshine. I like... I blinked out on all games. Okay.
On all games.
So I'm not as big on... I haven't played through the entirety of Final Fantasy 15, but I love Final Fantasy 12 like a lot, even though it's like a very different style.
It has more of that MMO sort of like...
a lot of them feel
It's got different. A cool... The Gambit system.
The Gambit system is really revolutionary, and I really do think a system like that is...
It almost lets you make macros for your other characters to do things. You can kind of really customize everything just how you want everybody.
It makes it so that you don't have to like really bear down on like swapping between characters and like really like worry about controlling them in all aspects of the battle.
Yeah.
And like in that regard, like there's a lot of people who slept on 12 and I kind of consider them wrong to do so. It's basically like playing another Final Fantasy game except just because like it gives you the illusion of running around mostly. I mean, the environments, of course, do. But it's basically like you're still in your 3-party. You're still doing your attacks with the active time battle.
I just had a mental hurdle with that game with the quote-unquote moving around, and it bothered the shit out of me.
Because like it's less of like you could be running away, you could be right here, and they could do like a little peck attack, and then you'd be hit.
So, that did
because it's still like you're in the battle.
It's like a precursor to what 14 became. Like you could move around and it mattered and all that. It's just like that was a mental hurdle so large for me that I was like, "Fuck this game, I'm out."
Oh yeah.
And I feel obviously it could be a great game, except I don't like the main character that much. He's a little shit.
Yeah, he's not my favorite.
But I mean, all the supporting cast is fantastic anyways, and also the DS sequel, which I imagine other people also did.
Was DS sequel
actually, and they really, my kid brain could be like misinterpreting like how deep story or character progression was, but like honestly, it gave me a lot more appreciation for particularly Vaughn and Penelo, but in general the entire cast, because it does a lot of personal growth.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I love Final Fantasy VII. I've been going through that again on the PS4. I got like partway through on the PS1. Still haven't beat it. I don't know why. But yeah, other games I really love. I already mentioned Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2. I spent quite a lot of time on Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Dark Crusade specifically.
I could talk a lot about that one, but
how do you feel about the licensed game Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers and its cultural impact?
I actually really like that one, and I have it on my emulator.
I mean, it's fantastic. I mean,
for both PS2 and GameCube.
I think you should actually, personal suggestion here, try out the Game Boy Advance version.
Oh, really?
It's basically like a little Diablo game. Like you have like your circle with a slight tint, or not like a slight reflection for your like health pool or magic or whatever.
Cool.
And you get to play through multiple different stories, and you collect your loot and everything like that.
I just finished listening to the entirety of the Lord of the Rings on audiobook, and I really enjoyed that.
Alright, so Lucas, my friend, I must ask, if you had to pick 3 genres.
3 genres?
To close out on.
God.
Your big defining ones.
I'm really, like, I mean, not to speak for you or anything, but, like, seeing a lot of, like, well, at least FPS and, like, Collectathon seem to be your 2 big shiners.
I do really like those. I like a lot of RPGs. I like stuff like Stardew Valley. I like...
Terraria was a big thing for you for a long time.
A lot of... I really loved Hollow Knight. That one was fucking fantastic. Jeez, I don't know about specific genres.
Hell, you can just keep it right there. Hell, we're well-rounded individuals.
Yeah, I
you went through you shot through a lot of games there.
That's true.
So
yeah, but yeah,
I meandered through like 5.
Pretty much so many games. Just yep, I love games.
I feel like if you could summarize this entire episode, it could be like, yeah, I love games.
Yeah. You like games, we like games. Come sit around our round table.
Yeah.
All right. Except get out of my house.
Get out of my house.
But there's a pandemic going on. What the fuck are you doing in my house? Get the fuck out.
We're all safe about all that, but
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is us closing our first episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining in.
Join us next time when we talk about how much we don't like video games.
What?
Thank you.
You'll find out when you get there.
Thank you very much for listening. It was it's an honor.
Gather around the hearth, give a hearty toast. Good night, everyone.
Good night, folks at home. Goodbye.